When I first left for France, I really didn't know what to expect. I had visited the camp I was going to serve at before, but with a team and in a different role. This time, I knew I might know a few people, but overall I didn't expect to have a similar experience. I'd never traveled internationally alone before and was a little nervous. Once I got to France, I knew how to get where I needed to go, as long as everything went according to plan. Everything did, outside of starting with a 7-hour delay and some flight changes. So I guess nothing did? While I was in France, I spent some time vacationing, but most of my time at a summer camp in the French Alps that facilitates lots of different activities for campers on vacation. We played games like soccer, bingo, and chems, went on outdoor adventures such as rock climbing, hiking, and camping, and also engaged in personal and intellectual discussions on everything from family to work and spiritual beliefs. I volunteered on the service team at camp, which means that we spent most of our time serving food, washing dishes, cleaning, and participating in all of those activities. Here I was able to witness a lot of different things about the French culture. The first thing was the very regional nature of the French. I was always hearing things like, "This dish is made with cheese that is made here locally and can only be found here." The French are very proud of their heritage and often identify with what is most local. For example, weekly markets, frequenting a friend's mom and pop shop, or ordering fresh bread from the same bakery every week. This does have an effect on the sense of government as a whole, and is in fact largely part of why the Republic of France, Big France, tends to be more uniform and on the maybe conformist side compared to America. That said, there's much that all for one and one for all attitude. When I got to France, I found more hospitality than I could have dreamed. The teams I worked on, the girls I worked with, the families I worked around, and many of them treating me like one of their own, are very dear to me. I came to France as a single girl who had never traveled overseas alone, but have traveled alone and so knew the responsibility I was taking on. And I know what it feels like to be alone, but no one ever made me feel alone. Someone always had my back. All cultures deal with dynamics like family, friendships, work, and meals, but there are different ways. The French are very protective and caring with their families. Friendship is built on history, loyalty, service, and work is to be taken seriously, but so is play and rest time. The French take more time off than we Americans do. They only work 35 hours a week, and they have 1.5-hour lunch days even in schools. Another main thing I was able to observe about the French is not a new one. It's their love and respect for food. Eating meals, and in general food, is famously important to them, and even in this small mountain village, working at a camp, it was given great respect. To contrast, for example, I've also worked at a camp here in the States, and can tell you that at an American camp, food is generally known to have a poor quality, that the cooks wouldn't eat themselves, it's made in mass quantities, and it is eaten as quickly between other events as possible. In France, everything is reversed. The quality of food is always high, even at camp, and in fact is homemade by people who live there. The groceries are delivered weekly or even more often with fresh ingredients from local people, and the cooks and servers are given time to sit and enjoy the same meal that they serve. Breakfast is small, but lunch and dinner are both 3 courses and served at the table. Overall, I learned more than I could ever pack into 5 minutes from this trip, but there are a few things I can take with me as I come back. I learned to appreciate many things more, clear communication being the first. It was often that someone would take the time to translate for me when I knew they didn't have to. Also, I gained a greater perspective on the dynamics of relationships in watching the way the French interact with their families, with each other, and with me. There's a greater sense of respect for the individual and for the role they play within a group. I was a server of meals and I cleaned toilets, but was always told please and thank you in my language when I was in their country, and I was often welcomed outside of that setting into activities and conversations with no other connection to them than the girl who served food and cleaned toilets. I also learned never to make the mistake of judging a book by its cover, even when that cover looks like mine. Every individual is different and has different needs, values, and perceptions. The more aware you are of these, the better you can communicate clearly, even when language is actually not something you have in common. As far as how this experience will affect how I will teach and interact with colleagues as a teacher, I think I have that increased sensitivity to an individual's needs regardless of their language level or appearance. Everyone is different and all need to be understood and respected on their terms. I believe I better know how to read individuals after spending so much time watching and learning in a cultural environment that is socially, emotionally, and linguistically so different from my own. I'm very grateful for the time that I was able to spend in France, and I'm also very grateful for the time that you spent listening to this. Thank you.